Welcome to a tour of Paris in the 18th century, one of Europe's largest and most influential cities during a period of elegance, intellectual transformation, and growing social tension. Using advanced AI technology, we transform centuries-old engravings and paintings into realistic scenes, allowing us to experience what life in Paris may have looked like more than 250 years ago. By the mid-1700s, Paris was home to around 600,000 inhabitants, making it one of the largest cities in the world at the time. It was a center of art, philosophy, and science, shaped by Enlightenment thinkers such as Voltaire and Rousseau, who challenged traditional authority and redefined ideas about society, government, and human rights. But behind the grand facades and intellectual achievements, Paris was also a city of stark contrasts. While aristocrats lived in comfort along the Seine, most of the population endured overcrowded streets, poor sanitation, and constant economic pressure. This contrast defined everyday life in the city and would eventually lead to profound political change. We begin along the Seine River, the central artery of Paris. The river functioned as the city's main transportation network. Timber rafts, cargo barges, and merchant vessels filled the water, delivering essential goods such as grain, wine from Burgundy, coal, and construction materials. Along the quays, laborers unloaded shipments while carts moved slowly through crowded, muddy streets. Despite its importance, the Seine was far from clean. Waste from households, workshops, and small industries flowed directly into the river. The smell could be overwhelming, especially during warmer months. Yet it remained a primary source of water for the population, illustrating the limited infrastructure available in a rapidly growing city. Looking toward the Ile de la Cité, the historic core of Paris, one structure dominates the skyline. Notre Dame Cathedral stood at the center of religious and civic life. Built over nearly 2 centuries, it represented one of the finest examples of Gothic architecture in Europe. In the 18th century, the open space seen today did not yet exist. Instead, tightly packed medieval buildings surrounded the cathedral, pressing close against its walls. The streets here were narrow, dark, and frequently covered in mud, waste, and animal remains. Open drains carried sewage through the streets, contributing to persistent health risks. Despite these conditions, Notre Dame remained a focal point for ceremonies, festivals, and daily worship, drawing people from every level of society. Moving away from the island, the city becomes increasingly dense and active. We enter the district of Les Halles, the economic heart of Paris. For centuries, this area served as the central marketplace where food from across France was brought into the city. Here, large quantities of meat, fish, vegetables, and grain were traded daily. Merchants negotiated prices in crowded conditions, while porters transported goods through narrow streets filled with carts, animals, and pedestrians. The constant movement created an environment that was both essential and difficult to navigate. The conditions were harsh. Rotting organic material accumulated quickly, mixing with mud and animal waste. The smell was persistent, and hygiene standards were limited. Yet despite this, Les Halles played a critical role in sustaining the city's population. Nearby, remnants of aristocratic architecture could still be found, including residences that once stood as symbols of wealth and influence. Over time, many of these buildings were surrounded by dense urban growth, highlighting the contrast between earlier elegance and the pressures of an expanding population. Continuing through the city, we arrive in an area with a distinct legal and economic character. The Temple District, originally associated with the Knights Templar and later controlled by the Knights Hospitaller, operated with a degree of autonomy. Certain taxes and guild restrictions did not apply here, attracting craftsmen, merchants, and members of the aristocracy. This created a unique environment within Paris, where goods could be produced and traded outside traditional regulatory systems. workshops specialized in luxury items, contributing to the diversity of the city's economy. The district would later gain historical significance during the French Revolution, when the royal family was imprisoned there under increasingly strict conditions. As we move toward the left bank of the Seine, the character of the city begins to change. Along the river stood numerous private residences belonging to noble families. These hotels particuliers were designed for both comfort and status, featuring formal gardens, interior courtyards, and large reception rooms used for social gatherings. Direct access to the river provided practical advantages, allowing goods and guests to arrive by boat. Servants maintained these properties carefully, resulting in cleaner and more controlled environments compared to the surrounding public streets. However, this level of comfort depended on a broader economic system that placed increasing pressure on the general population. While the nobility benefited from exemptions and privileges, many Parisians struggled with rising costs, particularly for essential goods such as bread. Beyond the city itself, another center of power shaped life in France. The Palace of Versailles, located southwest of Paris, served as the primary residence of the monarchy and the center of political authority. Originally expanded under Louis XIV, the palace grew into a vast complex with hundreds of rooms and extensive gardens designed with geometric precision. Thousands of courtiers lived and worked within this environment, participating in elaborate social and political rituals. Access to the king was tightly controlled, and proximity to the court determined influence and status. Maintaining Versailles required significant financial resources. Large portions of state revenue were directed towards sustaining the court, contributing to growing economic strain. This imbalance between royal expenditure and public hardship became increasingly visible as the century progressed. Returning to Paris, we encounter institutions that reflect the intellectual ambitions of the period. The Paris Observatory, founded in the late 17th century, became a center for scientific research and astronomical observation. Its design allowed for precise measurements, and its meridian line served as a reference point for French cartography. Prominent scientists conducted research here, contributing to advances in navigation and astronomy. The observatory symbolized the broader influence of Enlightenment thinking, where reason and empirical observation began to challenge traditional beliefs. Not far from here stands another important institution dedicated to military service. Les Invalides was established as a hospital and residence for wounded soldiers. The complex could accommodate thousands of veterans and included dormitories, workshops, and medical facilities. The environment here was more structured and orderly than much of the city. Military discipline ensured regular maintenance, resulting in cleaner conditions compared to densely populated districts. By the late 18th century, however, the stability of Paris began to weaken. Years of warfare, rising national debt, and poor harvests created significant economic challenges. Bread prices increased sharply, placing additional pressure on the population. Food shortages became more common, and dissatisfaction grew. At the same time, Enlightenment ideas about equality and representation continued to spread. The traditional social structure, divided into 3 estates, faced increasing criticism. In 1789, King Louis XVI convened the Estates General, bringing representatives of the 3 estates together for the first time in over a century. Members of the Third Estate, representing the majority of the population, demanded political reform and greater representation. Tensions escalated rapidly. On July 14, 1789, a large crowd gathered at the Bastille, a fortress prison that had come to symbolize royal authority. The protesters sought weapons and gunpowder stored inside the fortress. Negotiations broke down and fighting began. After several hours of conflict, the defenders surrendered. Although only a small number of prisoners were held there, the fall of the Bastille became a defining moment. It demonstrated that royal authority could be challenged and marked the beginning of a broader revolutionary movement. In the days surrounding these events, unrest spread across the city. crowds targeted institutions associated with privilege and control. One example was the attack on Saint-Lazare, where stored grain was seized amid fears of shortage. Buildings were looted, supplies were redistributed, and the authority of the state was increasingly questioned. These developments marked the transition from economic crisis to political transformation. The Paris of the 18th century was a city defined by both achievement and inequality. It was a center of intellectual progress, artistic development, and scientific discovery. At the same time, it was a place where daily life remained difficult for much of the population. The ideas that emerged during this period, liberty, equality, and citizenship, would extend far beyond France, influencing political systems around the world. Many of the locations we have explored no longer exist in their original form. Others have been transformed through urban development and historical change. Yet the structure of the city and its historical significance remain visible today. This was Paris in the 18th century.